Hey gang, Slow Fuse here, and today we're going to do a little something new. It's called a Acryl Quickie, and we're going to talk a little bit about wet blending. What you're going to want to do is start with two colors, and as you get better, you can use more. But for now, we're going to start with two in black green and bright pale green. We're going to get a Monument Bombwick Igniter Sable going here, and as far as dampness goes, you're not going to want a whole lot of water. You can see I don't have a lot of excess moisture on the brush, just enough to where it can let paint flow off nicely and not thin the paint down too much. As you're wet blending, you want to make sure you keep the paint as close to the consistency out of the bottle as you can, and we'll start in. So the first style I'm going to talk about here is called wet into wet. Okay, so I'm going to paint a section of this base here with my black green. Right? Maybe that's the shadows, so on and so forth. Then I'm going to really quick just clean the brush off real fast in the water. Come over here to my bright pale green, and I'm going to push that bright pale green wet paint into wet paint, right? And I'm going to push it all the way up to the top here, just leave a little bit of that pure black green up at the top, and then I'm going to drag the brush back down. Okay? And as I do so, I get a nice blend between my colors. So that's wet into wet. You can then clear the brush off. I usually leave it with this flat wedge shape on it. That way I can come back in here, clean up my brush strokes if I have any odd mixing going on, and boom, that's wet into wet. Now you can practice pushing your bright color into your dark color and vice versa. When you push bright into dark, you're going to wind up with a usually more overall bright color. When you push dark into bright, the reverse is true. So play around. If you're trying to wet blend into shadows, maybe push your dark into a bright color that you've laid on there, and otherwise, like we just did, push that bright into the dark, pull it back out, and you get a bright blend. So much brighter than the black green by itself. The second kind I want to talk to you about, same brush consistency. I don't want a whole lot of water on the brush, but this is called wet on wet. And so what I'm going to do here is take the black green, paint a little area on our base again, right, making sure that I've got enough paint there, not too thin, but enough paint to work with. Then, without cleaning my brush, I'm going to come over here into my bright pale green, and I'm just going to put that right in there. So I've got wet on top of wet entirely. There is no space here that has the bright pale green without the black green. Okay, once I get that located on there, I'm going to wipe my brush off on my paper towel, not adding any water, and then I'm just going to kind of squib those colors together. I'll be able to force them together, get that blended base in there, and wind up with my blended color. Then I can take a little bit more, again, dot it in there, clear my brush. You don't ever want to build up too much of any one color, including your mixed color on your brush. Wipe it off on your finger, paper towel, whatever, but you want to make sure that when you go in here with a fresh stab of brush, that you're not going to get that color mixed in correctly. Okay, so now I've brightened that up a little bit more, and clear my brush. Grab another little dot of the bright pale green, right into the middle, less and less each time. Clear my brush real quick. Kind of smudge that together. This is a great way to do blending on things like Space Marine shoulder pads, anything that is more of a round surface, where your wet into wet creates a linear blend. If you want to do something that's more round, your wet on wet winds up making better sense. And you can go back and forth. If I wanted to grab more of my black green, come over here and grab a little bit of that. And if I want to blend that around my edges to darken up the shadows, you can do so. And just play around with it. Same thing here. If I were doing something that was more shaded, I might want to go and push my dark color into the center of my brighter color, but just play around. You can create all sorts of amazing blends with these two different systems. So there you go, a Acryl Quickie. Make sure to check out monumenthobbies.com for all your painting supply needs, and pick you up some Acryl and some igniters, and get on your game. Later.